Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to this deep dive. We're tackling a really big question today. Why is it that in a world absolutely overflowing with information, finding genuine trust feels, well, harder than ever?
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
Mm.
We have access to everything, yet figuring out who or what to actually believe,
Mhm.
it feels like navigating a minefield sometimes.
It really does. And for this deep dive, we're pulling insights from a really thought-provoking source, specifically excerpts from Building Trust in the Digital Age by Dr. Pooyan Ghamari. He's a Swiss economist, founder of the ALN platform.
Right, and his central argument, it just jumps right out at you.
Hmm.
He's basically saying that in this digital era, trust and transparency, they aren't just, nice ethical principles anymore. They're presented as absolutely existential business strategies.
Existential, wow. That's not a word you throw around lightly. So he's proposing that embracing vulnerability, being open, it isn't just good practice, it's the actual pathway, the way to resilience and real impact today.
Exactly.
Our mission then is to really dig into why the source makes that claim based on the material we have.
Right. And he starts by explaining why trust is so much more critical now than, say, it used to be. The first major shift he identifies, the collapse of those old gatekeepers.
Yeah, this rings so true. Digital technology has just fundamentally rewritten the rules, hasn't it? It's destroyed that traditional asymmetry of information, where companies used to hold all the cards because they knew way more.
Totally.
Now, as the source points out, you clients, partners, anyone really, you can research, review, compare business in minutes. Think about Glassdoor, Trustpilot, Reddit, social media.
Right?
They've completely democratized reputation.
Exactly. Businesses that try to operate in that kind of black box where everything happens behind closed doors,
Yeah.
they aren't seen as powerful or mysterious anymore. Not really. They're increasingly viewed with suspicion. That kind of opaque leadership, it's perceived as arrogant or risky or just totally obsolete. You simply can't hide things the way you used to.
Hmm. And this opacity, it isn't just a perception problem, is it? The source goes on to talk about the very real rising costs of
Mm.
mistrust.
This is where it gets tangible.
Right.
Hmm.
He highlights that just one breach of trust, maybe it's a misleading product claim, maybe a hidden fee that tops up, or a data privacy scandal.
Oh, yeah.
It can have devastating consequences. It can wipe out millions in market value, completely derail promising innovations, or drive away your best talent.
Absolutely. And conversely, he argues transparency builds deep loyalty. It drastically increases customer retention, encourages those invaluable referrals, and perhaps most crucially, it acts as a kind of shield for your brand during a crisis.
A shield. Interesting.
Yet, drawing from his own experience advising global investors, he frames trust as the ultimate risk mitigator. It opens doors to opportunities that are just plain inaccessible if you're seen as unreliable. It's not just a soft skill. It's a hard business asset, really.
So it sounds like trust is less about avoiding mistakes altogether and maybe more about how you handle them when they happen, openly.
Precisely. And that brings us neatly to the third point from the source. Trust is presented as a powerful competitive edge, especially in crowded markets.
Mm-hmm.
In fields like real estate, investment, digital services, the companies that truly pull ahead aren't necessarily just those with the cheapest price or the, flashiest product.
They're the ones who manage to become the most trusted advisors in their space. Is that it?
That's exactly it. The source describes trust as something that compounds over time, like interest. Every single act of transparency, every promise you fulfill it, adds another crucial building block. It's not a one-off thing, it's a continuous process. And that's what creates enduring market leadership.
Okay, so if trust is this valuable, this critical, how do you actually build it? By design, especially in this digital environment.
Well, the source offers what he calls a wizard action plan.
A wizard action plan. Okay, I like that. Makes it sound less like some daunting corporate initiative and more like, well, maybe a bit magical, but achievable. What's step one?
Step 1. Publish behind-the-scenes making of stories or videos.
Ah,
The fundamental idea here is simply that people are inherently curious. We want to see how things are made, how decisions are really reached, how challenges are truly overcome.
right. It's just human nature, isn't it? Showing your process invites your audience into your world. It signals, hey, we've got nothing to hide here.
Exactly. The source suggests creating short videos or blog posts,
Mhm.
but not just the polished success stories, right?
Right.
Featuring real team members, the actual tools they use, the genuine dilemmas they face day to day.
So making the how just as interesting and important as the what. Explaining the trade-offs you had to make, the risks involved, maybe the values that drove a particular choice.
That's the core of it. The example he gives is Ayland publishing these video walkthroughs of their property selection process. They show both the successes and, importantly, the setbacks. He argues this builds immense credibility. It deepens client relationships way more than just showing the final glossy brochure.
It makes the process part of the value. Okay. Now, step 2 feels, well, it feels a bit more challenging for many companies, I'd imagine.
It probably does.
Yeah.
Step 2 is openly share failures and lessons learned. He calls these transparency posts.
Yeah, see, that feels really counterintuitive to traditional business thinking, that whole projecting an image of constant success thing.
It does, totally. But the source argues that almost nothing humanizes a brand or a leader quite like an honest admission of failure. Sharing what went wrong, and crucially, what you learned from it. It transforms that moment of vulnerability into a position of, well, authority.
Interesting. So things like writing candid retrospectives after a project, highlighting missteps, near misses, the course corrections you had to make along the way.
Yes, exactly. And it also means encouraging your team to share their lessons too. Creating a culture of collective wisdom, not just top-down pronouncements.
Turning those negative experiences into teaching moments for your community, for your clients.
You got it. He shares an insight, actually, that one of his most engaged posts ever was about a costly strategic error they made in an international expansion, and how they navigated rebuilding trust afterwards. It powerfully underscores that it's transparency, not this illusion of perfection, that truly forges connection. Real connection.
That's a brave approach. Definitely requires a shift in mindset. Okay, what about step 3?
Step 3. Host monthly AMA sessions. Ask me anything with leadership.
AMAs, right.
These open forums give your audience direct, unfiltered access to the decision makers. The source says this effectively flattens hierarchies. It establishes a visible willingness to be accountable, in real time.
You could do this through live Q&A sessions, maybe on social media or your website or platforms like Reddit even.
Yeah.
The key, I guess, is you have to be genuinely open to the tough questions and comfortable saying, look, I don't know yet, but here's how we're trying to figure it out.
Absolutely. Honesty about not knowing is key. And archiving those sessions, making them available, creates this growing, transparent knowledge base over time. The result, he notes, from Ayland's AMAs is pretty striking. They uncovered invaluable feedback, corrected public misconceptions they didn't even know existed.
Really?
Yeah, and revealed market opportunities they would have otherwise completely missed.
Wow. That's fascinating, turning accountability directly into market research. Okay, step 4 then.
Step 4, create a public dashboard for customer feedback and response time.
A dashboard. Okay.
This point really emphasizes that trust isn't built purely on words or promises. It's built on measurable, visible action. A public dashboard is a powerful demonstration of your commitment to actually listening and being responsive.
So this would mean aggregating and publishing real-time data. Things like customer satisfaction scores, how quickly you respond to inquiries, how issues get resolved.
Exactly that. And crucially, sharing the trends, the good and the bad. Explaining what you're actively doing to improve things and showing that progress or lack thereof over time.
You could even highlight impactful customer stories, maybe, both compliments and complaints.
Yes, that's part of it. The best practice mentioned is that being transparent with these metrics, it drives both internal accountability, keeps the team focused, and boosts external confidence. You're not just claiming you care, you're showing the data. Here's the proof we're acting on it.
Makes sense. And the final step in this wizard action plan, step 5.
Step 5. Implement and publicize a code of ethics for all communications.
Right, a code of ethics.
A clear, publicly accessible code sets the tone for every single interaction. It reassures your audience, your partners, everyone, that you operate according to principles, not just whatever is expedient at that moment.
So this means drafting a concise code, covering key areas like honesty, privacy, inclusivity, how you handle conflicts of interest, things like that.
Precisely. And it has to be highly visible, not buried somewhere. On your website, in marketing materials, built right into employee onboarding and training.
And leadership has to really embody it and be held accountable to the highest standards within it.
Absolutely critical. The strategic impact here, the source argues, is that when crisis or controversy inevitably arises, and it often does, this public code becomes both a shield and a guide. It anchors your response and is crucial for preserving trust precisely when it's most under threat.
It sounds like setting your standard clearly before you're tested on it. Makes a lot of sense. The source also touches on something he calls the deep logic of transparency, essentially how trust acts as this kind of multiplier across the board.
Yes, he lists several ways transparency creates this sort of exponential value. It's quite interesting. The transparent company naturally stands out in a crowded market. He calls that market differentiation.
Okay.
The best professionals, the top talent, they're drawn to work in places where honesty is the default that makes you a talent magnet.
Right.
Building trust when things are good, that helps you earn forgiveness and support during inevitable setbacks.
Yeah.
It's resilience.
Hmm.
And organizations known for transparency, they become preferred partners for others who value long-term relationships. Think regulators, investors, key clients. That drives growth.
It's really not just one benefit, is it? It feels like it creates this whole ecosystem of advantages working together.
Exactly. And the conclusion he draws from all this is quite powerful. It flips the common perception. Transparency isn't the risk that many people perceive it to be. Instead, it is the fundamental basis of digital leadership itself.
Wow, a fundamental basis.
Yeah, he describes it quite simply, actually, as the air your business breathes in this new environment. You just can't thrive, maybe you can't even survive long-term without it.
Ultimately, the source seems to suggest that by truly embracing transparency, even showing the imperfections, the warts and all, as he puts it,
Yeah, I like that phrase.
organizations become not just more resilient and stable, but also more innovative, more collaborative, and genuinely more influential. It's about building not just a successful business, perhaps, but a lasting legacy.
Definitely seems to be the implication. So, thinking about all of that,
Yeah.
from the collapse of those old gatekeepers to the steps in the Wizard Action Plan and this multiplier effect, what does this mean for you listening right now? How could embracing this level of openness, maybe even that vulnerability we talked about, shape the impact you want to have, whether it's in your work, your projects, or really any area of your life where trust is absolutely key?
That's definitely something worth sitting with. A lot to think about there.